Let's draft the women's wear size 8 back bodice. All the measurements I'm using will be listed in the description below. They'll also be featured in the video. I'll be drafting with a series of pens and markers so they're easily visible on the video, but I recommend that you follow along drafting with a nice sharpened pencil so you can make any changes if need be. I'm going to keep this video as quick and concise as I can, so feel free to slow the video down, pause it, rewatch it. Do know that any misstep can cause the entire draft to be thrown off, so if you miss any information, please rewatch the video to make sure that you're following along with me exactly. To start, let's draft a line A to B along the bottom edge of the paper. That will be the full length back measurement. That's 17 1/8 of an inch. From A, we're going to square a line A to C. That will be our across shoulder measure. That's 7 7/8 of an inch. Be sure to use a right angle ruler to square this line properly. From C, I'm going to square another line about 3 inches long. Doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a guideline. From B, we're going to measure along this line that we just drafted, the center back length. That's 16 1/2 inches. Sixteen and a half inches from B. That will be point D. From D, I'm going to square another line about 4 inches long. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a guideline. From B, I'm going to square another line. That'll be B to E. That will be our back arc plus 3/4 of an inch. That's 9 1/8 of an inch. From point E, I'm going to square another line. It's an indeterminate amount. Again, it's just a guideline. 10 to 11 inches will suffice. From point A, I'm going to measure along this line our back neck measurement plus 1/8 of an inch. That's 3 inches. And that will give me point F. From point B, we're going to measure our back shoulder slope plus 1/8 of an inch. That's 16 3/4 of an inch. And we want that line to land somewhere along this guideline. So I'm going to find 16 3/4 of an inch on my ruler and place that 16 3/4 point on point B on my draft and pivot my ruler, keeping this as steady as possible. Pivot my ruler until the end of it touches that guideline dropping down from point C. 16 3/4. That's B. And where it touches that guideline will be point G. From point F, I'm going to draft a line from F through point G and make that line the shoulder length plus 1/2 an inch. That's 5 11/16. Switching to a smaller ruler just so I can fit it on my table here. But from F through G, 5 11/16. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Just over 5/8 of an inch. So from F through this line, it will extend through point G. That's our shoulder length plus 1/2 inch. And the end of this line will be point H. From point F, I'm going to square a line until it touches the guideline squared out from D. This will help draft our neckline later. Again, 90-degree angle. We have to have this line first so we know how to draft the 90-degree angle from that. From point B, I'm going to measure along this line our dart placement measurement. That's 3 1/8 inch. That will be point I. Again, measuring along this line, I'll take the back waist arc measurement plus a dart intake of 1.5 inches plus 1/4 inch of ease. That's going to be 8 1/8 of an inch. So measuring along this line, 8 1/8. That will be point J. And I'll continue drafting this dart intake from point I along this line. That will be 1.5 inches for our dart intake. So 1.5 inches away from point I will be point K. To find the center of the dart, we want to find the midpoint between these 2 points I and K. You can measure it and divide that measurement in half. I'm going to be lazy and fold my paper until point K touches point I. Crease my paper and mark where that crease is. That should be our midpoint. That will be point L, the center of our waistline dart. From point J, I'm going to measure 3/16 of an inch in this direction. Just shy of 1/4 inch. That will be point M. So we've just dropped from J down to M. From point M, we're going to draft a line until it touches our guideline here. That will be our side length measurement. That is 8 1/4 inches. So I'll place 8 1/4 inches on point M and pivot my ruler until the end touches this guideline. That is point N. From point L, the midpoint of our waistline dart, we're going to square a line that's 1 inch shorter than our side length. That'll be 7 1/4 inches. That will be point O. I'm going to draw lines from O to I and O to K to map out my dart legs. And I will extend these lines 1/8 of an inch past this waistline that we first mapped. So from O to I, and I'll extend this by about 1/8 of an inch. Same thing from O to K. Draw my other dart leg and extend that line by about 1/8 of an inch. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to true up this waistline in just a moment. Now I'm going to tackle the shoulder dart up here. I want to find the midpoint between F and H. And again, I can measure it and take half of that measurement and mark it. I'm just going to fold my paper until point F touches point H. Remember, point H is the one that extends beyond this guideline. This midpoint will be point P. I'm going to place my ruler, the tip of my ruler, at point P and pivot my ruler until it lines up with point O down here. And then I'm going to map out a line 3 inches long from point P. So in the direction of point O, but I only want this line to be 3 inches long. And this will be point Q. Now I've added a 1/2 inch to this shoulder length measurement. That 1/2 inch is for my dart. So I'm going to take that 1/2 inch and mark my dart. 1/4 inch on either side of the dart. So 1/4 inch this way, 1/4 inch that way. This will be point R. We can imagine that both of these points are point R on either side of our dart, the center of our dart. And then I'm going to draw my dart legs from Q to both of these points. And I will extend these lines slightly and true them up later. Now, I want to find point S, which is going to sit along this line. And it's going to be 1/4 of the distance between points D and B down here. So again, I can measure this length, divide it into 4, and then measure 1/4 down. But I'm lazy, so I'm going to fold my paper. I'm going to fold from D to B, make sure point D touches point B, and crease my paper. So I know where the midpoint is. Again, I'm going to fold from D to where that crease is so I can find the 1/4. Put a little mark where my crease is. From D to that crease. That should be 1/4. So D to S is 1/4 of D to B. From S, I'm going to square another line. That'll be our across back measurement plus 1/4 inch. That's 7 1/8 inch. And from that point T, I'm going to square lines up and down to give us a guideline for where the armhole will sit. It is an indeterminate amount how long that line is, as long as you have some kind of guideline. The last thing to do is going to be to true up our darts and draw our armhole and neckline. So I'm going to true up this waistline dart first. This line, this dart leg that's closest to center back, closest to me, I'm going to pinch that paper up towards me and fold a mountain fold along that dart leg. I'm going to place the dart point O on the corner of my table to make it easier to fold this dart closed. So this dart leg will fold to that one. And while I have this folded, I'm going to hold this down and I'm going to true up my waistline. Remember that the waist will start at point B. It's going to pass through points I and K, which has been slightly dropped by about 1/8 of an inch, and it will touch point M, which has been dropped by 3/16. So it should smooth into point B and down into point M. While I have this paper folded, I'm going to grab a serrated tracing wheel and push real hard through this folded section of my dart. So when I unfold this, I can get an accurate dart peak. So that takes care of the waistline dart. I'm going to do something similar for the shoulder dart. This dart leg that's closest to me, closest to center back, I'm going to fold that paper up into a mountain fold. I'm going to place the dart point Q on the corner of my table to make it easier for me to fold that dart closed. Now that I've got that folded, you can see there's a major discrepancy here on the shoulder line, so we're going to true that up. Take a ruler and redraw your shoulder seam from point F to point H. Your shoulder line, excuse me, not seam. Redraw your shoulder line from point F to point H across the folded paper. And again, with the serrated tracing tool, roll over that new shoulder line. Open up your paper and you should have a more accurate dart peak with these dotted points. So that is our new shoulder line with dart peaks and dart legs. Now I'm switching to my friction pen to draw my neckline and armhole because curves are notoriously difficult and will usually need to be modified. So I want to use a pen that I can erase. I'm going to draw my neckline using my French curve between point F and guideline F to point D and the guideline D. So a slight curve for the neckline there. That neckline continues all the way to point D. I'm just using my red pen to mark that little curve. And then the armhole from point H, touching guideline T, and stopping at point N. And that takes care of our back bodice draft. So our center back, waistline with dart, side seam, armhole, shoulder with dart, 1/2 inch dart, and neckline. There's the